Hello and welcome to the Supercoach Hub BBL podcast. You'll have to excuse my voice, lost it a little bit, but I'm Nathan from Supercoach Guns, and today we're going to go through a bit of the news that's happened since we've last recorded, a couple of questions that have been sent in, and the Melbourne Renegades team preview. Before we get into it, make sure you're on the Discord server for the Supercoach Hub. You can find that in the link in the bio of the socials of the Supercoach Hub, which are on Instagram at Supercoach Hub. Same thing on Twitter, and of course, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Watching on YouTube, I should say, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, please follow the Supercoach Hub page. Now we'll dive straight into the news. Now, this is interesting because quite a bit in this. I think it was just before the Adelaide Strikers pod was released, and I recorded this one in advance. But Jai Richardson dislocated his shoulder. Not a serious one, cleared of any serious damage, so he'll be back in 2 weeks from when this is released. So that's pretty good. It could have been a lot worse for Jai, that's for sure. Probably for a bit there, I thought that Lance Morris would have been the guy to. Well, he would have been a real pod, and I would have said he's a serious option, but it didn't pan out that way. It shouldn't matter. He might get a spot, he might not. There's a lot of other options out there. Wes Agar. Oh, geez, holding a sneeze back. Wes Agar, General Sordus. So he won't play the next of the Marsh Cup or Sheffield Shield games, but just something to monitor. He's a bit worse for wear, old Wes. It could lead to, I guess, I don't know if it leads to all that much opportunity, but it definitely means that they might look for some depth in the pace bowling department over the summer just to manage his workload a little bit. Ashton Agar, his brother, he's done his calf again, so he's in a world of bother. So he's going to be back just in time for the Big Bash. So we won't get any more form on him, which is troublesome. And if he's not fit for the opening rounds, there's a guy called Hamish McKenzie who's carving up in grade cricket in Western Australia. I think he just took 8 for 43 in either playing for Subiaco or playing against Subiaco. Anyway, point is, he's in good nick. And, any player at 42,000 making their debut with even a little bit of job security is worthwhile picking up. Nathan Ellis has just returned from a groin injury. I had no idea that he did his groin, but apparently he did it in September, and he's just returning from it now. The T20, Australia's T20 squad versus India has been announced. It goes from late November to the 3rd of December, which is 4 days before the Big Bash starts. And I'll read out the squad to you now. So we've got Matthew Wade, Jason Berendorf, Sean Abbott, Tim David, Nathan Ellis, Travis Head, Josh Inglis, Spencer Johnson, Glenn Maxwell, Tan Veersanger, Matthew Short, Steve Smith, Marcus Stoinis, David Warner, and Adam Zampa. Now, the only one of those that isn't signed to a Big Bash club is Steve Smith, and I expect him to. Well, I don't expect him to actually play a game at Big Bash this summer, in all honesty. In terms of interesting points here, particularly for the Heat, because they play the first game. Spencer Johnson's in this squad. That's interesting, and they've got a triple. And Spencer Johnson will be a very popular pick for this triple game to kick things off. He's in really good form. He's had quite the 2023, even though it hasn't been in Australia. He did really well on the 100. He's been playing pretty decent cricket internationally. I think we'll get in when we get to the Heat. Well, I think we might have already covered the Heat. I can't remember any. I don't think we have, actually. But yeah, who knows? I think we haven't covered the Heat, so I'm going to go off that. When we cover the Heat, I'll read you his form and you'll understand where I'm coming from. But we do have a couple of questions that have been sent in. I did put it out on the socials last night saying, "Oh, if you've got any questions, let us know. I'm about to record." So here we go. The first one is from at QLD 2023 champs. I can only assume that's a State of Origin reference. Have you seen much of Paul Walter? Worth a punt. Now, I actually haven't. From what I've heard, he's a left arm quick. I think he's better than Ross Whiteley, was what I've heard on the surface of things. He's a better version of Ross Whiteley. Definitely more reliable with the ball. He's a tall fella, apparently. Let's see how tall he is. But yeah, he's pretty decent with the bat. More than capable with the ball. Yeah, 2.03, 203 centimeters tall. Yeah, that's good. It's good gear. So he should have plenty of pace and maybe not plenty of pace, but he'll get plenty of bounce on this Gabba wicket. And clearly long levers, so he should go okay. It's saying that often the Brisbane Heat don't nail their all-rounder selections in the Big Bash. So the best all-rounder to have from the Heat is still Michael Neser. It's saying that I don't think Paul Walter's all that expensive. I think he's around, 105 or something. I'll confirm right now, but Walter's not the worst. Yeah, 105,000 bat bowl. Again, not the worst pick. I'll have a look when we go into the Brisbane Heat eventually. But I imagine his form. I don't know what his form's like, but I imagine him batting in the top 6 and bowling 2 or 3. I don't think he's going to have the dream role. If he does, then that's pretty unfortunate because you won't if you don't have him. It'll come down to team composition. If it's clear he's the 5th and Matt Renshaw's the 6th, then we're talking a bit, okay? The second question I had was about what we're about to go into, so I'll answer this. I'll answer that one last. Another one from Lukey Mac 97. How many strikers do we want on our benches? So take into account they play the double round 2. I'm gonna say 2 at most. I like the idea of carrying Rashid Khan and Darcy Short on the bench. But to be honest, 1 to 2. You don't need much more than that. Also, it'd be wise to carry a couple, 2 stars, is what I figured. Because then you've got bench loops ready for you next week, for next round. And I think that's pretty smart. So let's say I had Glenn Maxwell and Harris Ralph, or Harry Brook, or Marcus Stoinis. I can have 1 in bat, 1 in bowl, and just use them as bench loops in round 2. That'll work really well. But you could do with that what you wish. From Hayden Lacey. Thoughts on these players? Inglis, Zampa, Agar, I assume Ashton, Colin Munro, Sam Billings, and Aaron Hardy. Okay, so Josh Inglis, I think he's a bit pricey. Plus, Alex Carey not necessarily got 2 hands on that Australian wicketkeeper spot. He's already lost the ODI one. Probably loses the T20 one at full strength. And, if Inglis keeps performing, he might lose the test jumper. So, not for me, purely because I think he's playing too well to not be like 12th man for Australia, or very close to playing for Australia. Adam Zampa, there's worse shouts. He's in form again, which is interesting. When he wasn't in form, I wouldn't have gone anywhere near him. But he's in form. He's got, what would that be? 14 wickets in his last 4 ODIs. So, it's really good form. We'll get into that eventually. We'll get into it today, actually. But yeah, not the worst shout. Has a double as well, so yeah, I've heard worse ideas. Ashton Agar, obviously we've just covered him. He's got that calf issue. I don't think you pick him round 1. I'd much rather Paul Walter or someone of that similar price range, just because often when a player comes into a tournament underdone, they just don't perform from the get-go. You could pick him up for $90,000 or $85,000 later on, and could be a bargain if he's in full flight. Colin Munro. Now, I have him in my team personally, and I think a lot of people will, just because in a triple game round, you're very like the risk of someone not firing twice greatly increases. Imagine someone not firing 3 games in a row. How unlucky would you have to be? You know, I imagine all of the Heat batters, all of the top 4, I imagine have at least one good game in three rounds, right? So I think you can pick Munro with a fair bit of confidence, and if Nice is out, I might captain him. Yeah, be a big risk. Sam Billings, he comes into that same category. Yes, I know he'll bat 4, but he's also handy that you can put him at keeper. That's another good thing. And, you know, he's a bit of a quality batter in the sense that, you know, he just finds a way to get to good scores more often than not. So I'm pretty happy with his selection. Aaron Hardy, I love. Like, we're talking a guy that could bat 3, bowl 3 overs. It's ridiculous. It's like Mitch Marsh, so he's in my team. I want to build around him for quite a while in my squad of players. Is 5 to 6 Heat players too many this round because they have a bye round 3? That's a good question. Now, I put out on socials during the week that a lot of people have been messaging saying, how many Heat players? I said, there's no definitive number. This has never happened before, so we can't definitively say whether or not this number is correct. So I said a range of 4 to 6. Now, I'll explain why. If you're a bit pessimistic on this whole situation, that it seems just like a trap to lure in Heat players, it might not actually go all that well. Fair enough. I see where you're coming from. Part of me agrees, right? You might lean towards 4. If you're a believer that there's a lot to like about the Brisbane Heat themselves, there's a lot of Supercoach relevance there, and that they've come along after making this grand final from nowhere last year. They're here to stay in the top parts of the competition. Then, yeah, you probably would go with 6 players, 3 batters, 3 bowlers. Me, I'm indifferent on it, right? And that's why I've gone with 5. I just don't know, and I'm pretty sure you could probably find some data and put together a trial 3 rounds, but you know, it's not really something we've seen before. In fact, maybe I'll look into it for the next podcast. The last time a team had 3 games in such a short span, how did they perform? Yeah, we'll get into that one next time. And finally, the biggest trap player right now. That's an excellent question. Obviously, I haven't prepared any of this. This is all off the top of my noggin, this trap player stuff. Matt Short. He's someone I'm not very high on this season. A lot of bowling options at the strikers. Not necessarily better, but just more recognised. Like, obviously, Matt Short has developed into a bona fide all-rounder now at the top for the strikers. And his spinners are pretty good, I won't lie to you. But you've got Darcy Short, left arm leg spin. It doesn't even need to be good left arm leg spin. Left arm leg spin's so weird to play. We covered it in the last pod. I think at 244k, Matt Short's an avoid. I think he could still average high 50s, early 60s, but he's priced at an 80 average. It's a lot of money that could still be bled. So I'm going to let him be to start this season. It's risky, I know, and he's also only got 1 game in the first round. So, yeah, I don't know. I think he's a bit of a trapped start. I think he'll be good this season. I don't think he'll reach the heights that he has in the last 2. But I'm happy to be wrong. I like stability, so if he's going to do it again, that'd be great. All right, well, we'll get straight into the Melbourne Renegades now. And we'll go to the predicted 11. So for round 1, assuming everyone's available, this is how I've got them lining up. I've got Quinton de Kock and Joe Clark opening the batting. I've got Jake Fraser McGurk batting 3. Wow. Sean Marsh batting 4. Nick Maddinson batting 5. Aaron Finch batting 6. I'll explain later why. Will Sutherland at 7. Tom Rogers at 8. Kane Richardson at 9. Majib at 10. And Adam Zampa at 11. Now, you're probably thinking, where's the 6th bowler? Well, in a sense, it's Nick Maddinson. He did his ACL in January. Usually the recovery time's 6 to 9 months. He should be fine. If he isn't, then that's when things get interesting. Because, because I've got 3 internationals already. They probably put John Wells in for Nick Maddinson. And then they're down to 5 proper bowlers. It probably means that either Fraser McGurk rolls the arm over or they bat Sutherland at 6. But I think Sutherland's too good to be your 6th bowler. I think you've probably got to bowl him for most games. So something's got to give there. He's either got to bat 6 and bowl 4, because that's a great use of him. He's a good enough player now that you can do that with him. But it doesn't seem nearly necessary enough to do that now. Anyway, we'll get into form for these players. Quinton de Kock, we'll do Major League Cricket, and then I'll cover the ODIs, because that's where it's fun, right? Major League Cricket, he went 10, scored 7 and had 3 catches, so 37 points. A catch and 53 runs off 36 balls, 88 points. 10 runs, 9 runs of stumping and a catch, 34 points. 88 off 50 with a catch, 133 points. And 87 off 52, 122 points. For a 62-point average. Now, that's pretty good, because he's priced at around that. But if I look at Quinton de Kock in this World Cup, I think it's pretty well known that he's having an absolute blinder. But I'll read out the scores anyway, because it's more fun. In this World Cup, he's had scores of, let me get it here, okay, 100, 109, 24, 174, and 24. He had 3 tons in 7 games, one of which was 174. And it was against Bangladesh, so anyway, it wasn't like he scored 20 against the Dutch, and South Africa lost. So it's not like he's bullying the other teams, and he scored a ton against Australia. So, I like the selection of Quinton de Kock here. I think I do think he could be a really. He's got a double, and he's an explosive opening batter. He's their keeper. They've already confirmed that. Yeah, I just don't see what will go wrong. If he comes down under, I think we'll have to pick him in our Supercoach. Joe Clark in the 100. These are his scores without wicket-keeping. So he had 0. Oh, wait. No, not scores without. Oh, yeah, I better. Oh, jeez. Okay. I'm going to read you out his scores from the 100. And I'm going to tell you his average without keeping and his average with keeping. Okay? So he had 0 with 3 catches, 69 off 46, 16 and a catch, 0, 54 off 34 with 2 catches, 2 runs, 2 catches and a run out, 42 off 22 and a catch. He averages 52.5 with the gloves, 36.86 without. I don't know if I want to start him in my Supercoach team. He's 140, and I think there's better options at that price. So I'm staying clear. Now, Jake Fraser McGurk. This is one that's got me excited. In the Marsh Cup or Sheffield Shield, and the Sheffield Shield, he's got 15 in the Marsh Cup, 37 and 29 in a Sheffield Shield game, 125 of 38, in Marsh Cup, including the fastest ever List A 100. List A is 50 over cricket. He's beaten AB de Villiers' record, which is insane. He's 62,500. I'm a big fan. If he's actually batting 3 like I reckon he will, oh wow, he'll be a very popular player. Sean Marsh, there's no form on because he doesn't play. Nick Manderson, there's no form on because he had a torn ACL the whole winter. Aaron Finch, now this is depressing. In Major League Cricket, he batted from 5 to 7 for his team. Can't remember who it was. I think it was the Unicorns, San Francisco Unicorns. Scores of 9, 14, 12, 14, and 19. He averaged 13.6 points a game. No catches. Didn't score above 20. Batted between 5 and 7. This will be his last Big Bash season. I'll say it now. It's his last Big Bash season. Not relevant for me to select. And certainly not batting very high. He'll be the irrelevant one. He'll be an on-field coach basically this season, and I think it's good because it finally put some weight on Jake Fraser McGurk's shoulders. You know, they did this with Will Sutherland when Andre Russell left last year, and it worked a treat. They've got to do it with Fraser McGurk, and I think it'll work just as well. At 7, I have Will Sutherland. Again, you can bat him at 7, you can bat him at 6. They could bring in Pete Siddle and bowl him 2 overs at the death, and that'd be it. You know, what they could do is have Pete Siddle as your 6th bowler. For sure. But then you've got Tom Rogers batting 7. That's the flaw. They need an all-rounder. They're an all-rounder short. They don't need a gun all-rounder. They've got their gun all-rounder. They just need a batter who can bowl a little bit. That's Nick Manderson. If he's not fit, they're up a certain creek without a paddle. Okay. Sutherland. I'll read you out his form. He has in the Marsh Cup / Shield or whatever. He had 29 and 1 for 54, 7, 3 for 39, 1 and 6 and 3 for 66, 5 and 2 for 14, 28 and 18 and none for 57, and 1 and 3 for 72. So, batting's not been great, but, you know, the great thing about Sutherland is that he's often just really good at these late cameos. That's what got him really good last year. That's what brought him to the price he is of 155 this year. You know, these late cameos into pressure in the middle overs with the ball. It's good stuff. I like it. He can bowl at the death too if you really need him to. He's also Victoria's captain, so he's come on leaps and bounds. He'll be a future captain for the Renegades, I'd say. Then we move to Kane. Tom Rogers has nothing on. Kane Richardson. Kane Richardson. In the 100, he was rubbish. None for 33 off 20 balls, 6 dots, and scored 8. None for 11 off 5 balls and a wide, -1 for that game. 4 for 32 off 19 and 6 dots, 96 points. 1 for 5 off 5 balls, 3 dots and a run out, 43 points. 1 for 37 off 20 balls, 6 dots and 2 runs, so 28 points. And finally, none for 11 off 10 balls and 5 dots, 5 points. You know what that adds up to? 30.8 points a game. I want to see if Kane Richardson can beat the washed allegations, because I'm not sure that he can. We'll move to Mujib. Of course, I do have it here in the Lanka Premier League. None for 28 off 4 with 8 dots. None for 25 off 4 with 10 dots. 2 for 17 off 4 with 13 dots. None for 23 off 4 with 13 dots. 2 for 26 off 4 with 8 dots. 1 run. None for 23 off 3 with 7 dots. 2 for 32 off 4 with 9 dots and 3 runs. 1 for 45 off 4 with 8 dots. 1 for 29 off 3 with 4 dots and a catch. None for 24 off 4 with 11 dots. That's 35.5 points a game. Again, it's not great, but that's Majib, you know. We know he's not really a like he's a solid T20 bowler, but his best format's ODI cricket, right? If we have a look at him in this World Cup, he's got 1 run and none for 30 off 10. 10 runs not out and none for 64 off 10. 28 runs and 3 for 51. 4 runs and 1 for 57. Then none for 55 and 2 for 38. So he's a pretty tidy bowler. Okay, the economy rate is still good. He gets his wickets through pressure. He's a good guy to have in the second innings of a game. Now, Adam Zampa. Major League Cricket. He's pretty good in. 1 for 29 off 3, 2 dots and 3 runs. 2 for 25 off 4 with 9 dots and 6 runs. 3 for 41 off 4 with 9 dots. 1 run, 1 for 36 and 5 dots. 2 for 26 off 4, 9 dots and 12 runs. That's 53.2 points a game. Plus, he's taken 3 fourthers and a twofer in his last 4 World Cup games. He's in really good nick. You're also paying like high 120s for him. It's not that much of a price tag. And I'll also cover Pete Siddle just to show you why he's not in my predicted 11. Because he can't beat the washed allegations. None for 10 off 5 balls with 5 dots. Oh, no, hang on. No, none for 10 off 2 overs with 5 dots, 5 points. 1 for 41 with 5 dots, 25 points. 2 for 29 off 3.4, 9 dots, 54 points. 5 runs, 2 for 28 off 3 overs and 4 dots, 45 points. 1 for 32 off 3 overs and 3 dots. 1 for 25 off 4 overs, 10 dots. And none for 39 off 4 and 3 dots. That adds up to 27.86 points a game. It's just not good enough. He's rarely bowling 4 overs. They could if it wasn't for batting depth, they would genuinely pick him and bowl him 2 overs at the death. Right? But he's washed. There's a reason he's 75k. Don't pick him, guys. Don't pick him. Now, the big Supercoach relevance lies in Fraser McGurk, Sutherland, and de Kock. If Quinton de Kock maintains this form heading into the Big Bash, we're gonna want to pick him. Okay. If Joe Clark, no, not Joe Clark. Sorry. If Jake Fraser McGurk can lock up that number 3 spot, he'd probably be one of the highest picked players, if not the highest picked player in Supercoach, because he's put his name out there with 100 off 29 balls. So people in Australia, cricket fans in Australia, will now well and truly know who he is. And Will Sutherland, it just depends on team composition. I know he will do a job. I know he's good enough now that he can do any job that they give him. We've just got to see the team composition work in his favour. Now, the ground data. I'll do this. Batting first, the average score at Marvel Stadium is 159.5. Batting second, the average score at Marvel Stadium is 159.7. But the percentage won by bat first teams is 16.7%. That's a great question. Why is that? Oh, hang on. No. Sorry, I never changed that number. Ignore the percentage won by teams batting first. That number, it's not even a relevant stat for Supercoach, which is what we're looking at, so don't mind me. Average wickets in the first innings is 6.5. Average wickets in the second innings is 4.8. So that tells me you want to be on a team that bowls first because you're closer to taking 7 wickets there in comparison to the 5 you'll take in the second innings. Teams measure out their run chases and might still fall short, but they measure out their run chases better batting second. So you want people from the team that are bowling first is pretty much a short answer. Pace bowling strike rate. Now this is interesting. Pace bowling strike rate is 19.48. This is how many balls for a wicket. All right, for pace bowls, it's 19.5. For spin bowls, it's 36.5. Remember how it was super spin friendly? No. It's just not a good ground for fantasy because just for Supercoach at all. The average score is 160 runs, right? You're only losing 6 wickets at most, right? Paces, they're solid, right? They're what you expect, right? Spin bowlers, it's meant to be a spinner's paradise. It's not. In terms of wickets, it's not. Economy rate, yeah, they're very hard to get away because it's such a dodgy wicket and a spin-friendly wicket. People just sit on the spinners. They're like, nah, we're not going to go after you. We'll just take you for 5 and over, not lose a wicket to you. All right? It's the sort of team or sort of ground you just want to avoid like the plague, it seems. Anyway, we'll see if that rings true this season. But based on BBL 12, these are numbers all from BBL 12. It was a place to avoid like the plague. Early schedule for the Melbourne Renegades. They have the double in round 1. They have 1 game in round 2, a double in round 3, and 1 game round 4. So you can confidently put Quinton de Kock in your wicketkeeper position. Sorry, I'm being really careful trying to avoid any euphemisms when I'm saying Quinton's last name. Otherwise, I think that's it for the Melbourne Renegades. Next week, I want to start looking at a couple of these Sydney teams. You can see them wearing lime green. That's a coincidence. We're doing the Sydney Sixers just to spite them, spite the Thunder. We'll go with the Sydney Sixers next week. Part of the things that I'm interested in is a lot of people are saying that Tom Curran is washed. I just don't think it's true. I've had a brief look at the numbers. There's no merit to the washed allegations at all. Even if his bowling looks bad, right? The Supercoach points are still there. He's still the same Supercoach player he was when he came down here 2 years ago. Okay. Rehan Ahmed will be an interesting one. I think he'll be in their starting team round 1. And why he's bat bowler, I'm not sure. But he's a great guy to plug in your batting because he will be a pure bowler. And that's a strategy I like. Bowlers early on and you shift to batters late in the tournament. Anyway, been good talking. I will catch you all next week when we look at the Sydney Sixers. And just remember, follow us on Twitter at SupercoachGuns. And if you want Big Bash content, at bbl.supercoach.guns. Catch you next time.